Hello and welcome to the Socially Ambitious Podcast. I'm your co-host Liv.
I'm your co-host Jess.
And I'm your co-host Anna.
On this show, we'll be delving into all things social media, delegation, and influencer marketing.
Join us for insightful conversations on mastering work-life balance, pursuing your passions, and crafting the life you've always dreamed of.
Get ready for actionable tips and empowering discussions. Hi, welcome to Socially Ambitious Podcast. I'm Anna. This is the first episode I'm actually recording by myself without Jess and Liv, so be nice to me. And today we have a very special guest, Makaela. She is not only Jess and Liv's new assistant, she not only does our everything for Socially Ambitious. She is one of our first ever Influencer's Assistant course graduates, and she's also my childhood best friend. So I'm so excited to get into it. Makaela, say hi.
Hello, I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I cannot wait.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to have you here. Give the people a little intro. Who are you? What do you do? How did we get here today? Where are you from? Give the people a taste.
Yes. Okay. Oh my God. Where do I even begin? I guess I should start from the beginning.
Yeah, it's a great place to start, I've heard.
Yeah, it's a great place to start. So, like Anna said, we are childhood best friends, pretty much have been through it all together. And she knows my high highs, she knows my low lows. And I would bring it back to one night we were having dinner in Red Bank, New Jersey. That's where I'm from. And I was talking to her about just where I was at in life, as many of our conversations go, and I was saying my gosh, I just cannot keep up. I cannot make ends meet. I'm just going from job to job, and more specifically part-time job to part-time job, because I'm a little more free-spirited, if you will. And so I never fully settled in a corporate role. So I was finding myself just being pulled in a lot of different directions in life to kind of just live and make ends meet. And finances were a big part of that. And I was just let go from a position. I was working at a Pilates studio at the time. And Anna and I were having dinner, and I was like, Anna, what am I going to do? I need a job. And then Anna at the other side of the table, this girl was like, Makaela, God, I totally feel you. I not in fully the same ways, but she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because my influencer business is popping off. I need help. And her and
I was on an unrelated note.
Her and I just looked at each other, and I was like, hey, I'll help you. So that story is so pivotal to how the whole rest of the trajectory began. I started working for Anna to do her brand pitching while Anna was working for Jess and Liv as their full-blown influencer's assistant.
And this was this was in September, August, September-ish, right?
Yes, because I was working for you for during the fall, because I know I started with Jess and Liv January.
Yes.
New year, new me.
Yes. And this was as I was working for Jess and Liv as their assistant, and we were also starting to work on creating the course, and that was getting super heavy, and I had no time to do any of my own stuff. Also, walk us through, what kind of jobs were you doing at the time? What were all the different jobs that you had? Paint the full picture.
Okay, full picture. Okay, even more detail. I was pet sitting. I was doing front desk at a Pilates studio. I was nannying, which is a whole friggin' nightmare that I literally cannot go into.
You hate kids.
I Don't ask. Like, don't even. I mean, that's what was going. I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, the desperation, I guess.
Yeah.
I went to undergraduate school for psychology. Like my whole plan was to go straight to graduate school, but then I ended up moving to California just for fun. I
Just the
just
vibes. It was
just
the
the
vibe at the
vibes,
time.
just the vibes at the time, exactly. And so at that time, I was working like part-time at Lululemon, um, teaching yoga. That's a big part of my journey, but it's just again like part-time hours or like a yoga
Yeah,
class
yeah.
is like only gonna get paid for that hour. So I and then like there would also be like little stints of projects. My sister has her own marketing company and she would hire me for just time-sensitive projects. I would say at the time that you and I were chatting, I was doing a lot of pet sitting, which I loved because I love animals, but like tiring, like a lot of
Yeah.
tiring. It was pulling me away from like other things like social life and family. And I would like a big part was that I was really, my life was just like completely revolved around my jobs, like
Yeah, yeah,
constant like job revolving door. And when you and I were chatting, I became your assistant. I also like was a manager at what was it? Like a salt
Salt.
spa?
Yeah, salt
Yeah, like
spa.
a salt
It'd
spa.
probably be easier to name the places you didn't work for at this point.
I know that's actually I tried to keep it like under like the wellness animal umbrella.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
just
yeah.
like it was anything like under that umbrella that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could
yeah.
work for. Yeah.
Wellness animal child umbrella.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So
So you
that's
started at like 2.5 hours a week. How did this escalate to now this being full time?
a funny story. It escalated very quickly. The escalation process is actually probably one of my favorite aspects to reflect on because okay, Anna, yes, we started at 2.5 hours per week, strictly brand pitching. And then at the time, like you said, you were doing a lot with Socially Ambitious. You were doing your own vegan group tour trip preparations.
Yes.
And we started out normal with just the brand pitching. And then like every like few days or so, Anna would reach out to me and be like, hey, I'm doing XYZ. Do you want to help me? And I'd be like, sure, like, why not? And I was always like very down to work.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, so I need to put a non-disclosure agreement together. Do you want to do this?
I'd be like, can you code? Are you a lawyer? Like, are you?
She'd be like, I need to make a full-blown insurance contract so that I don't get sued for my trips. Do you want to do that? And I'd be like, sure, I could figure it out. Like,
For legal
so,
reasons, this is a joke.
yes. Yes. So that is how like that isolation would start, like just like kind of like new projects added every week for her. And you started to just like exponentially grow so much.
Yes.
And
Yeah, because I remember September of 2022, like a video went viral and then I got like a lot more followers. I wanted to do a lot more trips. Yeah, that was like before. Then I decided to add a second trip and I was like crying, not like with excitement, but also I was like, oh my God, how am I going to put all this together? We're building SOAM.
right.
Yeah. And then I also was like, and like if you have a good assistant, like people are going to try to steal them. So then you were also started working for like two of my friends before even Socially Ambitious, right?
Oh my God, I forgot. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
you worked
like,
for Diana and
and
Kamala.
yes,
Yes.
Kamala.
Yes.
So, oh my God, I completely forgot about that. Oh my God. Literally, it's like this reflecting is making me remember like all of those little things that happen that you fully forget
Fully
about.
forgot. Yeah, you started doing brand
Okay.
pitching for like 2.5 other people.
Yes. So then, and not to mention the rate at that time was really great. So I was able to like, at that time, then like brand pitching was like for you, Diana and Camo, that was like, okay, great. That was like one of my new side hustles. Like that's what I was doing. And yeah, I was pitching for them again during that like fall season, like September through Jan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, along with her stuff, she was like, hey, my friend is, needs someone else to do this. Like, fully thought, like being the best friend that she is, she was like, fully thought of you, referred me. I was like, literally blessed. It's like the sole reason I am where I am. And yeah, that went on. So I started working for Kamala, then I started working with Diana, pretty much same thing, brand pitching. That's just all that those particular influencers needed at the time, which was kind of perfect because at that point I hadn't yet taken the Influencer's Assistant course yet.
Right, because it didn't exist.
Perfect. Yeah. It didn't exist yet. That's right. Yeah, it didn't exist.
And then so so I basically approached you and I was like, hey, so we put together the course. You're doing well at this. Do you want to be a beta tester for this? And so when you make a course, FYI, typically what you end up doing is you offer it to like a group of people at a discounted rate in exchange for like feedback to make sure it's like 100% ready to go. So I was like, okay, Makaela, do you want to be one of our beta testers? What went through your head? What was, tell us what happened?
So, yeah. So, all right. Full transparency. I was like, I don't know about this, which was it's so silly to think about that at the time because of how much, like, let's just say like, quote unquote business I was getting like from Anna literally by doing influencer assistant work. I was like, I just like, don't know about this. Like, I was just thinking, how big is this industry? Like what is this industry? Because again, I'm coming from this like yoga, wellness, animal space. Like I don't come from the social media space whatsoever. Like I see influencers on Instagram and that's about it.
Yeah. And you didn't also like, in all fairness, you didn't really have any like long-term goals in the social media space. I don't think this was never like, oh my God, it's my dream to like work in this industry. Like you're in, grad school for something totally different. Like you're like, this kind of all happened super quickly.
Right. Oh my God. Literally, again, with the forgetting, I'm literally in friggin'
Makaela's in grad school to become a therapist.
Like insert that piece of information. I literally during all of this had started graduate school. So still a graduate student to become a counselor. Yes, fingers crossed. We're a little more than halfway through. So I was like, oh my God, like I'm like how much time I'm already like devoting so much time to school. I like have my new little side hustle. Like I'm thinking to myself, like, I'll probably just like keep scooting on by. And I was talking to my sister about it because she's in the social media space. And I was like, I just needed to like take a second and be like, okay, what makes sense right now? Like, what are the facts saying? I'm a big like facts over feelings girly. Yeah. The facts are that Anna literally has supplied me so much work. This course fell into my lap. It's a no-brainer. Yeah. So that is how I became a beta tester. So I was one of the first to take the course, and I'm so honored.
Yeah. I was thrilled. We were thrilled to have you. It was really cool experience beta testing. And then pretty soon after, we were obviously like, okay, we can't, we're not going to hire someone like not from our course. And then I had kind of like a conversation with Justin Liv after we made SOAM where I was like, this is getting really busy. My trips were getting really busy. I also was doing like 2 group trips back to back. So I was going to be like MIA for a month. I was like, I think it makes sense for someone else to take over. And I think we should chat with Makaela. And then pretty soon, so you started at like 2.5 hours a week in like September. And then in December, pretty much it escalated to, do you want to be Jess's assistant? Do you want to be Liv's assistant? Do you want to run Socially Ambitious, customer service? To then 2 months later, do you want to run everything for Socially Ambitious? And now how much do you work now?
Okay, yeah. So I started with the 2.5 hours for you, and then it was kind of similar with Kimla and Diana. So let's just say roughly like 8 hours a week there,
Yeah.
give or take. You got too busy. You referred me to Jess and Liv. Okay.
And then you got too busy and fired me.
Oh my God. So isn't it funny? Like just the cycle of
The
everything.
cycle of life.
Like,
Yeah.
come around. So yeah, and everything just happens so naturally, which is I think like why all of us just like so synergetically work so well together, because it just was aligning. Like when
Yeah.
So Jan of 22,
Yeah.
23, 23.
Yeah.
Look, Anna is like, I'm getting too busy to work for Jess and Liv. I put in a good word for you. You have an interview on this day. I was like, holy shit. Oh my God, this is like the real deal. Like I had heard about Jess and Liv, like,
These are the big dogs.
these are the big dogs. Took the influencer's assistant course, being like, oh my God, can I do this? And as someone not in the space, I was like, oh my God, like they're influencers. Like I've only seen pictures of them. Like, what is it? Like, I can't believe we're going to talk to these girls and totally like not even connecting to the fact that like they're just people. And not to mention like some of the most like wonderful girls, like all of you are just just plug. You're so amazing and very fully human and just down to earth.
Very down to earth. Yeah, yeah.
Quick fast forward to today, I work anywhere from, I would say, maybe like 26 to 30 hours a week.
Yeah. Okay. Between the three things. And now it's just, yes, because you no longer work for anybody else. It's just Jess, Liv, and So Am.
Exactly. Those three. Those are like my three like clients, quote unquote.
Those are your three clients. And so what is like, walk us through, like, what does your day to day look like? Like what, I think that's a big question. A lot of people like, what does an influencer's assistant even do? Like, what is an influencer? What do you even do? What do you
know.
Do you influence? Like, do you?
It's so funny to be asked that question because I so often am like answering emails about that or like hearing you guys on the gram, try and tell people like what the heck it is that we do. And this is such a like loaded question because really every position is going to be different. So I'm just going to talk from my perspective. So I would say I can kind of break it down into like what I do for Jess and Liv and then what I do for So Am. So Jess and Liv are really similar in that their priority is creating collaborations because that's like their bread and butter. So a huge part of that, it always seems to come down to brand pitching. So I am pitching minimum 25 brands a week. And this is also like high level. There's like little differences and nuances in there, but I'm pitching 25 brands a week for them, all of which get weekly follow-ups. I also am managing their inbox every single day, kind of differentiating between what it is that I need answers to, what do I think that they'd want to see or want to get involved with, and then, just not even bothering them with like any spam, just things that aren't important because their inboxes are flooded with so many things.
I think that's a big like misconception. Even as I see people talk about brand deals, I don't think people understand like how much like garbage is in an influencer's assistant inbox and like how many people even like I feel like when someone says like, oh, someone gets paid like $1,000 per video, let's say, or something like that, that like how it happens is like someone just comes into their inbox and is like, hey, I'd like to work with you and pay you $1,000 for this and this. And like, I don't think they understand it's not unusual for like there's a brand I've been going back and forth. Well, I, as in my assistant, I haven't done anything, for like a month over like rates and deliverables and things and how often someone comes in and it's just like, oh, we'd love to work with you. And either they don't have a budget or they're not aligned expectations. Or a lot of time they didn't read, like a lot of the time I'm a vegan page and I get things that are like meat advertisements. And I'm like, okay.
Like what?
And yeah, and how much there's like a back and forth about collaborations, how much is like just needs to even be sorted through before you even get to that.
Yeah, it's so true. You fully hit the nail on the head. And something that came to mind as you were talking was just what needs to happen to make these girls' lives easier. And truly what that is like only giving them exactly what they need to see or exactly what I need an answer to or from versus what can I just not bother them with? Like if I can figure this out without them, I'm not going to bother them with it. And so that's also part of the job is like when you kind of get into your groove with your influencers, it's what do they want to know? How do they want to know it? Or what can I do on my own? Because they need to be focusing on creating content, you know, keeping their eyes on their big visions while I help execute it, you know, and do what I can to kind of like facilitate that for them, like making sure that they have what they need to do it. And all right, so to-do lists. There's going to be things that Jess and Liv are going to put on my to-do list, whether it's I want to follow up with these brands in January. I did like gifting with them. Let's try and kick it up a notch. Or can you, oftentimes also it's like, can you help me find my registration and my insurance?
I like registered just to vote one year.
Yeah, so like sometimes little personal things will sprinkle in there. I would say the to-do list is very miscellaneous, or it's like, can you, you know, make edits in my media kit, you know?
Yeah, like that definitely varies, you know, influencer to influencer, and even Jess and Liv have different assistants for different people, but your job in particular is pretty like admin focused, like email management, brand management, campaign management. You would say like 99% of your job in particular is like at your computer.
Oh yeah, it's fully at my computer. Like you said, next big chunk, the campaign management. So if a brand comes back, negotiating with them and going back and forth between agreement points in contracts, making sure that that's all squared away, following up with brands that we've been in contact with that we kind of want to try and collaborate with. I always like to say fortune is in the follow-up. So follow-up is absolutely huge. I would say, like I said, like the admin side, 90% is like in the inbox.
Right.
90, yeah.
And so since you work for you had to technically kind of have three different jobs, I guess, in that way. And you're obviously a full-time student, and you work pretty full-time and you teach yoga as well. How have you structured it? Like, has it been a weird leap? Like if someone's coming from like a corporate situation or a different job situation, like how is this different? Like, how do you structure it in that way? Like, how do you stay organized? How do you make sure nothing falls through the cracks? Like,
yeah, that's a really great question. So it's not easy. For short answer is it's not always easy, but at the same time, and it wasn't easy in the beginning, definitely a learning curve, but it gets easy. And I remember you, Anna, saying something to me, like, because I was so afraid of how I would perform and like basically like follow in your footsteps. And you were like, trust me, like you're gonna be able to like do this in your sleep. And so it definitely has gotten to that point. It's kind of just like part of my life now, but okay, how do I structure it? And there's a lot that I think about here. So fortunately, I'm able to work between, let's just say like give or take 30 hours a week. Oftentimes it's like a little bit less. Like I am able to work like in like let's just say like in literal terms, that's like part-time hours. So I'm able to, as opposed to like 40, as opposed to 40, you know?
It's still a lot like, though. It's two jobs in European hours.
No, oh my God, trust me, like totally get it. But like compared to like a lot of people who are working those 40-hour weeks, like I only work like half the amount of time. So I'm able to do that, fortunately, because of the industry rates, which I'm really thankful for. So that leads me into how I structure it, which is like every day kind of looks different because of school, but like ideally what I try and do is like the it's like a very loose 9 to 5 for me. Like start like with the girls inbox, anything important that needs to be tended to, anything in the socially ambitious inbox that needs to be tended to. I'll always like to get a workout in there at some point during the day. And then usually my evenings are school because I have class. This particular semester is 4 to 7, twice a week. And I just find that like in the nighttime when everything's kind of done, like because the majority of my time is spent in the inbox, and we do, I would say all of us, like you, Jess, and Liv, focus on like that, like 9 to 5 time. I kind of like stop a little bit after 9 to 5, after 5 p.m.
Right.
So I have all that time after.
Do you do like blocks? Like, are you like from this time to this time, I'm working on just stuff from this time to that, or do you just kind of like wake up and roll with it? I'm also so curious because like I would like kind of try to structure it. You do get like a lot of things come up during the day. So you do like as much as you structure, there's like a little bit of flow that needs to be flowed.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. And I guess it's like it's like I'm picturing what I'm trying to say in my head, but it's also like coming out different because every day is a little bit different. But so the blocks, I think I used to do that more than I do now. Some days it's like really cut and dry, like either their collaborations are just like a little slow or the girls are like in their shooting phase where like they don't need me as much. Like everything's already been agreed on. We don't need to invoice yet. Like, so I guess there's kind of like ebbs and flows of like where the girls are at, where I'm at in my socially ambitious tasks. That's a good word for it. It's very much ebb and flow.
Okay.
So I think I used to do blocks because I'm like super type A and I'm like, okay, I have to work 2 hours for Olivia and then I'm working 2 hours for Jess and then I'm working 2 hours for Sam. That ended up like really not working because I would be like in my Olivia block and like Jess would be texting me and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm not done with my Olivia block. Like, and that's just like not how that, first of all, that's just like not how life works. Like was just like a really inflexible way of working. And I was finding myself like more stressed or like working too long for one of them and like not, tending to something that needed to be tended to. Jess and Liv, if you're listening, everything gets done. But
I feel like there's always like, or I would kind of always have kind of like a B list of things that are like not at all urgent, yet like can always be done if there is downtime. You know what I mean?
yes.
Like, I feel like there's things that are like the emails need to be answered every day. The negotiations need to be done every day. Negotiations need to be done every day. But then there's things that are like, oh, I could always pitch more, or like, oh, there's the media kit that's like not urgent that maybe, but now I have some downtime. I can like do that,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of more of where I'm at now, which I think also just speaks to more of like a shift in like my own personal self and just like how I'm approaching things in life. So again, because we're talking about like how the heck do I balance it all? And yeah, it's been a journey. So now what I do is like in the mornings, kind of take like a high level overview of like, okay, what does this day look like? I look at all of the inboxes. What are like the most important things I need to get to right now? So I kind of end up working for everyone like simultaneously, if that makes sense. When the important things are tended to, then I can kind of be like, okay, now I can do, like a task from start to finish and like do one thing and then the next thing and then the next. I would say that's kind of what I do now. And kind of like learn to roll with the punches because like you said, like things just come up.
Yeah.
They just fully come up, and like TG for Trello in those situations. Like something comes up, I write it down and then I'll note how urgent or I'll note the priority level, and that will indicate how soon I need to get to that task.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And so, okay, now I kind of want to get into like what your advice is for other people, because obviously not only do you do this, you've you've probably seen a lot of applications at this point in one way or another, whether it's through SOAM or through Jess and Liv's inbox in particular. Like, and some are great, some have taken the influencer's assistant course, some have clearly not. What do you feel like, or even if somebody's thinking, let's start with, if somebody's thinking about getting into this, like if someone's like, I maybe want to be an influencer's assistant, like what are things that they should consider?
All right. So your question is, if someone wants to be an influencer's assistant, what should they consider?
Yeah. Like how will they know, like, this is the right thing for me to do? Or, what are the skills that you think they need?
All right. So things that you need to consider are what do you need in your life at this time? This job is absolutely perfect for me right now because it's that, again, like, more so loose 9 to 5. If I need to start a little bit later, I can. If I want to start as early as I want, I can. Also, thank God for schedule sending emails. So I need that flexibility with school. Like, if I have a group project, I need to meet at noon. I can meet at my group at noon. Like, I have the flexibility. As long as I get done what I need to get done, I can kind of structure my day at my own accord. So something to consider is, like, do you need flexibility? Because this job is totally going to offer you flexibility. There's always variance between influencers and like what you're being asked, but truthfully, I've seen a lot of what influencers are looking for when I'm posting the job listings in the group, and overall, it's very much under all that big umbrella of, main thing is getting the collaborations. Maybe there's some editing thrown in there, maybe some personal tasks, but all under that, like, very flexible, you can kind of schedule at your own accord. So is this job going to help you? Is this going to like relieve you at all? Because it totally has relieved me. Another thing to think about is, like, organization is a must.
Yes.
I would say type Bs can like totally do it, because like in the course, you, Jess, and Liv provide every single tool that anyone would need to be an incredible asset to your influencer. But you need to stay organized, because there are points where there are a lot of negotiations. Like, I have a list of like 20 plus brands that I'm tracking my follow-ups with, and I need to make sure like they're being followed up like between, no more than 5 to 7 days apart, So, and that has to be tracked in order to kind of like, what's the phrase? Like, not stay on the money, but like,
not drop the ball, like
not drop the ball. Sure. Yeah. You get it. You get it.
Yeah. So, I feel like too, it is definitely one of those jobs, like, no one is going to be like, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Like, you have to like, just already do it. Like, I feel like Jess and Liv, and then me as well, now that I've like hired someone since you left me. But no, I'm just kidding. I love Lauren. She's great. Amazing. Yeah. But like, as soon as I say something, or as soon as I leave a voice note about something, like, I expect it to like be in their hands now and be done. Like, if I have to start being like, did you do this? Like, are you at work at 9? Like, are you doing this? Like, it's never going to work. Like, you just have to be the type of person to like, sorry, I was like, get it done and like figure it out. Like, once it's in that like ether. And yeah, definitely like to have that. And I think that's a real thing. Like, when I was even working for Jess and Liv, and like I was traveling through Italy, like it was rough to have to like work. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I want a remote job so I can like travel. And then they just really wanted to like travel. They just didn't want to work. Just totally fair. Like, I so get it. But yeah, it's definitely going to be one of those things where like you need to kind of be a self-starter. And also, like, I think in a lot of other employment situations, like even potentially assistant, like a lot of people come in with the expectation that like you're just going to be following directions and someone is going to give you ABC. And that's why I almost think like an assistant isn't even the best word for it, because you are such a self-starter. You are going to like have your own ideas, your own like creativity, your own like and that's why we love you so much, because you don't say like, oh, what should we do? You're like, these are the three options that like this is the problem. These are the three options that I researched, and like, this is what I recommend. And like 99 times out of 100, we're just like, yeah, like whatever you want. So I definitely think that's super important to like have that like self-starter energy for sure.
Right. I absolutely love what you said. And you know, when you're like so in the weeds of something, you're kind of on autopilot. So I'm like, oh my God, that was such a good point. Like, how could I forget that? Like, that literally is the job. Like,
Yeah.
that's such a good point to consider. Like, you kind of have to always be ahead of
Yeah.
them. So again, something to consider is like you do, and how do I keep up with it? Like things just have to be checked every day.
Yeah.
They just do. And it's kind of like that's been a thing, like just staying on top of your stuff. I don't want to say like you have to be, you're not a manager, because I'm not a manager, and I don't want to like Jess and Liv are like fully my employers, but like I almost think that like assistants in a sense like are very managerial, because you are managing things, and oftentimes like I am on top of you guys being like, I need you to do this, or I need this from you, or whatever. Like just like you said, like you'll come to me because like you'll need something done, but it's never like, Makaela, we asked you to do this, what's going on? Like it's like you, Jess and Liv will tell me to do something, and you don't even need to like worry about it getting done. Like it doesn't even need to be talked about. Like it's going to get done.
It's done. Yeah. It's like, yeah, and no, it's such an important point, even though maybe it's not like a manager role. Like I think it is a bit managerial. And I think a lot of people like do need to, and I think what makes someone like a great assistant is really when you're taking into consideration the fact that like, this is their first time doing things too. Like they're growing really quickly. Like all in all, as an influencer, I think you can grow really quickly. And like, I've never done group trips before. Like this is my first company doing group trips. This is, my first time at this amount of followers on TikTok. This is my first time doing brand deals of this scale. This is my first online course. And like, I think the assistants that are really, really good do come with like, that understanding and that expectation of like, even like the other day, like Lauren was like, hey, I noticed like we kind of haven't been sending out a lot of emails. I was thinking maybe I should do like a summary of the different group trips via emails. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah. Like I didn't even like think about that, because there were all these other things going on. And like, I think that makes someone so great is when they're a bit intuitive and do take the initiative to like have those suggestions. I think a lot of people are like, scared to do it because they're like, oh, they're like my boss. But I'm like, I do think that's what ends up making someone like a really good assistant,
100%. Like when you think about it, the reason anyone hires anyone is because they need them to execute a certain job and make their life easier, or to help a team, or like be that aspect that kind of like helps move the needle.
Yeah.
So that is exactly what this job is. Like you cannot be afraid to be like, oh, I don't know if I should bother them. Like your job is to like full on get all up in their text thread, or like, in me and Jess's case, like we got to hop on the phone. Sometimes I got to be like, Jess, girl, like, we got to hash out some things on the to-do list.
Yeah,
like
we got to get it done.
So, or even like with SOAM, because sometimes I notice like, if you're in a group chat, like sometimes things do get left.
Oh yeah, I'm like, they'll answer it. And
I need to be like, okay, at Jess or at Olivia, like I need one of you to do this. Like that's really that self-starter nature and that intuitive nature, and just knowing that like, yeah, you cannot be bothered with like the fear of bothering them. Like they want you to bother them. Like if it means, and
especially if it's about money, like bother me. Like, please. Like,
yeah. If it's about that deal, if it's about that, you're good.
Good. What do you feel like? Because I'm sure you've definitely seen a lot of resumes, a lot of applications at this point. What do you feel like are big mistakes people are making, even like from the application process?
Okay, so that's a good question. I'm gonna say some mistakes. Something that I think is a mistake is that I find a lot of people, maybe not a lot, some people aren't maybe tailoring their resume to a specific job.
Mhm.
Um, I like applying has never been one of my fortes, and I'm pretty sure you've done my resume like 100 times. I
Sure.
it's like a little annoying to like redo the resume every time. You always just want like that one that you could just like fire off down a list. But I would say the tailoring is definitely maybe needs a little bit more attention.
Yeah.
Aside from even like I'll just call those like more of like formalities. Aside from the formality, something that I notice that like comes into the inbox a lot is people will ask like, I have this experience, like, do you think I can do this? And this job is like really you know, there's things you really need to be organized. You need to be that self-starter. You need to be positive, like upbeat attitude, because like no one wants to work with someone who's not like that.
Yeah.
But it's not even about like what you've done in the past. It is truly about like what you are bringing to the table now and just like, can you execute this job and make their life easier? Like that is what is most important. So I would say honestly, like a little bit of doubt I see in people, a lot of like hesitation, but like I promise you, like if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah,
Promise.
for sure. I think a lot of people really get caught up in like work experience around this. And I'm like, how much work experience can you have in an industry that's only existed for like, I mean, you can say that the influencer industry has been around for like, let's say even 10, 15 years, but
Right.
it's so different now than it was then. Like TikTok has been around and even like TikTok has been popularized for like maybe but maybe 4 years, I guess, since the pandemic. I guess that had like a big rise in 2020. But like, how much experience can you even possibly have in an industry that just existed? Like,
100%.
it's no one does. I don't, I started my page like maybe 2.5 years ago at this point. Like, that's not a lot of experience. And at the end of the day, like, I mean, I definitely think there's basic things that people need to learn. That's why we like made a course, but it's definitely not about like what you've done before. Like all of it is things that really can be learned in like a relatively short period of time.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's like when you think about it, that's kind of how like that's how I've gone like about most of my life. Like I don't even know how I ended up in like so many situations, but it's like you don't always have to know the how. Like you just need to kind of maybe know like the what, like what is it you want to do and like you figure it out or you get
Yeah.
taught. Like it's always like have you heard that saying it's like 20% skill, 80% mindset? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's fully that. It's like don't worry about like don't get stuck in the details.
For sure. For
Okay. Yeah.
sure. And like, I also always think like ethereally, I definitely believe that, you know, if you're in your heart, like want to do something, that it is for you. It's not just there like, not to be like, but like, I feel like God wouldn't be like, oh, plant this like desire in you and then be like, no, like it's not for you. I think it's definitely, if it's calling to you, it's something that, and you don't always need to know like how it's going to work out. I remember when I was like leaving the acting industry, I was like leaning, and I didn't know. I was never like, I want to host group trips. I want to have an online course. I want to have a TikTok where I talk about like social justice issues. Like I was kind of just like called to this thing. And I was like, okay, I want to maybe make a food page, start posting about it. And where it goes from there is in God's hands or whatever. But I feel like if something's calling to you, it's definitely, and even people ask me like, because before this, if anybody's new, like I was an actor before this, and then I decided to leave. And people ask me a lot, like, do you regret it? Because I didn't go to college. I took a huge risk. I was like, I want to be an actor. And then I was like, oh, I don't, after a while, after like a big movie and a show, I was like, oh, I maybe don't want to do this anymore. And people ask me a lot, like, do you regret it? Do you regret investing like all this money and time into this career that you ended up like not liking? And I'm like, no, because I never would have been able to do what I do now without that. And even I have other friends, everyone pretty much from my high school theater who ended up pursuing acting full time. Some people, you know, it worked out for differently than others, but majority, a lot of people don't do it anymore. And I think not a single one of us regrets it, even though that was a really, really big risk overall. That was like a really big financial thing. You know, a lot of us spent tens of thousands of dollars in years of our life. But like, I think also now I see like, even as they go into other jobs, they're not necessarily like less successful than those who had a college degree or did XYZ, which I think speaks all the more to the fact that like whatever, you know, you're being called to is your path. If you're being called to, you know, you want to be more in the social media industry, or you want a job where you can travel, or if you're here, you know, I definitely think it's for a reason.
It's so true. Yeah. And again, like that's just so synergistic. And I think you all, like have been, you, Jess and Liv, and like even myself, we've been like so successful because we've gone with those calls, you know,
Yeah.
I often say in my yoga classes, if you missed it, I teach yoga as well. You know, we want to be listening to those like whispers, not like the shoulds, not like the screams of like, I have to do this or I should have been doing that. Like it's very tempting to go in that direction, but it's like the really soft kind whispers and like those calls that you said that are kind of what I think like moves the needle in our personal and like all, you know, take this with a grain of salt, like our spiritual lives to like kind of like really move us forward into like this life that we want. And like it is fully unfolding and happening for me. Like I moved out of my house like because of this job. Like I only have 2 jobs. Like I only do this and I do yoga, but I do yoga now just because I love it, not because
Yeah.
I'm chasing the classes. And I'm
And you
able to,
left studios that you didn't like you were more
yes.
intentional about, you started doing your own workshops, you know?
Yeah, I started, you're right, like gaining the confidence to like say no to work and like
Yeah.
really know my value and my worth. And this job has also been teaching me so much just from more of like a professional space, getting an idea of the kind of space that I want to be in. I have never been more respected and cared for in any other work environment. It's unbelievable. And it's not just because like we get along so well, like the boundaries are very clear. Like
Yeah.
you're very much like boss and I execute, but like it almost doesn't feel that way. Like it's just, I think it is because of the boundaries. Like it's just everything's really clear and,
Mhm.
you know, we make space for a little bit of fun, but like we all know, like, you know, when ish needs to be done, we get it done, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like,
yeah. Definitely a
um,
very like discipline is freedom approach of like
yes.
everything will get done during the hours of we'll have this meeting from this time to this time and we'll get it done. And if we have a little extra time, we'll key. But yeah, but I think I love like that environment that's been created. And I think that's pretty common. Like and I think another thing is funny is people are always like, oh, are influencers like terrible to work for? Like, are they crazy? And I'm like, no.
Oh my God.
And maybe
It's,
somebody's had that experience, you know, of course, like there can always be people that are, yeah, people are still
but that,
people.
but that's with any job. Like I'm almost thinking about how like one certain aspect of, let's say this industry is being criticized. Like you can, like in that aspect, like you can see that in any work environment.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
just, like, you know, so there's also, you know, there's a lot of those misconceptions that people don't know about, which is why I love that we're here and that you're doing the podcast and that you have the course because you
Yeah.
go through that, you demystify it and you know, more people are learning about this space.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'm very excited. As we wrap up, any like final words of advice to people who are considering, you know, becoming an influencer's assistant? You don't have to. We gave a lot.
I know. I'm just like, oh my God, these are like my final words.
Yeah,
What
it's
do I
really
say?
serious.
I feel like oh my God. I guess, you know, just think about what you're looking for at this time Know that it's possible. Know that you definitely will need to be by your computer or phone. That is a must. But it, you know, if it's going to be anything similar to my journey, it's only going to benefit you and it's only going to move you forward in maybe ways that you weren't expecting. Which we've seen a lot in our students. They've come to us with a lot of wins that they were never expecting. And yeah, just follow the calls. Just honestly, what I have learned about you and Jess and Liv is that you're just so in tune with yourselves and what you need and do the best to like really honor yourselves and what you want. And that's helped me. And I would only recommend the same thing to like our potential students and just community.
Hey, amazing. And then I guess just like final wrap-up question. What is one thing you're just excited about in your life?
Oh my God, one thing I'm excited about is, well, there's kind of two things. One, going to Olivia's wedding with you and seeing her get married, because I've been helping plan the wedding and I'm like, oh, go. And I'll
see the fruits of your labor.
Yes. And what am I excited about? This is actually like, it's a little, no, it's not like personal, but I would say I just had a passing of my grandfather and I'm watching my grandmother kind of in her new process. And she's just so close to me. And I'm kind of excited to see how she grieves, but also flourishes during this time. That's just like been really near and dear to me lately. So
yeah,
I'm
in her first like single era since like 17.
She's 85, just so everyone knows.
So they were married for like 65 years, something like that. Yeah, she's in her like single baddie era.
Yeah, and she is a baddie. She rocks.
Yeah, she like is. Okay, well, I guess let's wrap up. Thank you so much, Makaela, for coming on here, sharing everything. And yeah, we'll see you next week, guys.
So bye, guys.
Bye.